ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश नम ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the series of seminars on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, which is known as Sanatana Shiksha, which constitutes Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapters 20 to 24. It's quite elaborate. So we are beginning this series from today and it will continue quite for some time. So we'll have to be patient. I think at least we will be taking 6 months to finish this. So before we begin the seminar, there are some norms. So kindly keep your mobiles in silent or in the airplane mode. And if you're sitting on the computer, you can sit at one place and you can hear. If you're with the mobile, then I'll suggest still sit in one place. Don't move here and there. That disturbs other devotees also, and you also cannot attentively hear. So better to be in one place. So this discussion on Sanatana Siksha will be interactive. We'll be discussing verse by verse the Chaitanya Charitamrita verses, and if you have questions, you can always raise your hands. Please don't type anything in the chat box, especially questions. Only if the audio is not working, then you can send a message on the chat box. Kindly raise your hands to ask questions if you have. Most important is questions should be related to the subject. Kindly don't ask questions out of context. We are discussing some verses of Sambandh Gyan and there is explanation. So ask questions about Sambandh Gyan. So this is very important for the devotees to stick to the subject matter of discussion. So please don't ask questions out of context because other devotees will feel it irrelevant. And so that's why it's better to stick down to the subject matter of discussion. So the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami is called as Sanatana Shiksha. And It constitutes 4 chapters, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 5 chapters, sorry. It's quite exhaustive. Rup Shiksha, we know that Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami on the Dashashwamedh Ghat in Prayag for 10 days. But to Sanatan Goswami in Banaras, Varanasi, he instructed him for 2 months. So that constitutes these chapters. So why Sanatan Goswami was instructed for such a long time? The reason being that Sanatan Goswami is our Sambandhacharya. So Sambandha Abhidheya Prayojan. Sambandhacharya is Sanatan Goswami. So the more Sambandh Gyan we understand, then the much better we can perform the Abhidheya. Rupa Goswami is our Abhidheya Acharya, how to perform bhakti. And then when the Abhidheya is performed properly, then we get the Prayojan, that is Krishna Prem. So Sanatan Goswami being our Sambandhacharya, so the Sambandh Gyan, who are we? Who is Krishna? What is our relationship with Krishna? What is this material world? Why am I suffering in this material world? So Jiva, Jagat, Jagadishwar. Jiva is the living entity. Jagat is this material world. Jagadishwar is the Lord. So what is the relation between all these three? This is called in the Upanishadic language as Tattvatraya. The Bhagavad Gita also deals with this Sambandh Gyan. So that's why exhaustively in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sanatana Shiksha is quite elaborate, and that we are going to see. So especially the philosophical aspect in chapters 20, 21 and 22 is what we will be going more in detail. Some of the chapters are very lofty. They speak about Krishna Prem and pastimes of Krishna. Those parts we will not be touching upon. So we will be only discussing mostly the Sambandh Gyan. Now, in this seminar, these are the main themes which we will be discussing. The first class, which is today, is verses in glorification. Sorry, okay, I don't know how. In glorification of Srila Sanatana Goswami. So many other acharyas, Mahaprabhu's associates, have glorified Sanatana Goswami. So today we will be discussing this theme. Then we will be discussing verse by verse, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, these chapters. And while we'll be discussing these verses, very important concepts also will be discussed in the PowerPoint. Most important, we will be doing a comparative study of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Dasha Mula Tattva. Now, how many devotees have heard about this book, Dasha Mula Tattva? Can you raise your hands? I would like to see how many devotees have heard about Dasha Mula Tattva. 1, 2, 3. Only 3 devotees have heard. 5, 6. So very few devotees have heard about Dasha Mula Tattva. Interesting, you can lower your hands. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in many of his works, speaks about this Dasha Mula Tattva. In fact, he has written a separate book called as Dasha Mula Tattva. And in other of his works also, he has elaborately again discussed Dasha Mula Tattva. As I was mentioning, he has written a separate book called as the Dasha Mula Tattva, but he has also mentioned in other works. Just to give an example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote 6 essays which are favorable for cultivation of devotional service based on Upadeshamrita text 2, and 6 unfavorable items which destroy devotion. So there also, this is now in the form of a book called as Bhakti Aloka. So there he has discussed Dasha Mula Tattva when he discusses Nishchay. So we will be doing a parallel study of Mahaprabhu's teachings to Sanatana Goswami Because Mahaprabhu is the original propounder of these Dashamula Tattva. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is extracted from the Chaitanya Charitamrita and presented in his works and books. Jaiva Dharma is another book where Bhaktivinoda Thakur exhaustively discusses Dashamula Tattva. So this Dashamula Tattva is a very important philosophical foundation for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And many devotees might have heard in Ayurveda there is Dashamula Arishta or Dashamula Kashaya. That means this herbal preparation is made from 10 Ayurvedic herbs and it is in the form of Kashaya. So just like this Dashamula Arishta, when a patient takes this medicine, it destroys the disease of the body. Similarly, when we philosophically understand Dashamula Tattva, it destroys the ignorance of the Jiva and enlightens him in spiritual knowledge. So the real teaching is given by Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. So as Mahaprabhu is going to speak those verses in the Madhya Leela, it will come in chapter 20. We will also comparatively study Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Dashamula Tattva and make a comparison to see whatever Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we will also be going into a little philosophical understanding of this Dashamula Tattva and why it is very, very important. So this is our main discussion in the Sanatan Shiksha. So any questions, any clarifications up till now anyone has? Okay, so then we will begin the first theme today. One second. Yeah. So verses in glorification of Sanatana Goswami. So this is again from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, 5th chapter, from 200 onward verses. Kaviraj Goswami is speaking about how he got the mercy of the Lord and the exalted Vaishnavas. And then he speaks about the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, and there are some verses which glorify Sanatana Goswami. So we'll come to that. So he's now in this verse, text 200, he's speaking about how he attained the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. Because Nityananda Prabhu directed Kaviraj Goswami to go to Vrindavan and take shelter there. So this is the verse. Jaya Jaya Nityananda, Nityananda Ram, Yahara Kripate Painu, Vrindavana Dham. All glory to Lord Nityananda Balaram. Jaya Jaya Nityananda, Nityananda Ram. By whose mercy I have attained the shelter in the transcendental abode of Vrindavan. Yahara Kripate Painu, Vrindavan Dham. So the spiritual abodes and even the material abodes, and within the material abodes, the spiritual abodes are manifestation of Balram. So without Lord Balram's mercy, one cannot enter into the Dham. So Kaviraj Goswami is expressing his glorification of the mercy what he was bestowed by Lord Nityananda. I will not go into the past time, but it is there. Jaya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Kripamay, Yaha hoy te paino, Rupa Sanatana Ashray. All glory to the merciful Lord Nityananda, Jaya Jaya Nityananda, by whose mercy I have attained the shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Sri Sanatana. Yaha hoy te paino, Rupa Sanatana Ashray. So in the abode of the Lord, especially Vrindavan, Mayapur and Jagannath Puri, we have to take shelter of the associates of the Lord, the dear devotees of the Lord. So he is expressing that in this verse, that I have got now the shelter of the lotus feet of Rupa and Sanatana. Yaha hai te paina Raghunath Mahashay, Yaha hai te painu Si Swarupa Ashray. By his mercy, again Nityanand, I have attained the shelter of the great personality Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. We know that Raghunath Das Goswami was narrating the pastimes of Mahaprabhu here on the bank of Radhakund, and Kaviraj Goswami heard all these, and then that's how he composed the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's why he is now expressing that. And by his mercy, I found the refuge of Sri Sarup Damodar. So, Mahaprabhu, to approach, it is only through Sarup Damodar. And Sarup Damodar's shelter was taken by Raghunath Das Goswami. So, in that sense, by taking shelter of Raghunath Das Goswami, Kaviraj Goswami has taken also the shelter of Sarup Damodar. Prabhupada, anyone desiring to become expert in the service of Sri Radha and Krishna should always aspire to be under the guidance of Sarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. So we have to take shelter of the 6 Goswamis, and especially even Sarup Damodar. To come under the protection of the Goswamis, one must get the mercy and grace of Nityananda Prabhu. The author has tried to explain this fact in these 2 verses. So ultimately, as I mentioned, that to get the Goswami shelter, you have to get the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. Prabhupada is emphatically making that point. Now he glorifies Sanatana Goswami. This is the verse which was important, but there was a prelude which was important. So that's why I discussed the other verses. Sanatana Kripaya Paino, Bhakti Ras Siddhant, Shri Rupa Kripaya Paino, Bhakti Rasa Prant. By the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, I have learned the final conclusions of devotional service. So Sanatana Shiksha is very important because by that we will attain Bhakti Rasa Siddhant. We'll understand the final conclusions of devotional service. And by Rupa Goswami's mercy, we will understand the nectar of devotion, Bhakti Rasa Prant. And by the grace of Rupa Goswami, I have tasted the highest nectar of devotional service. Practically, it is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and Upadeshamrit, Rupa Goswami. So, as long as we don't understand the Bhakti Siddhant, that is what is Sambandh, what we are speaking. As long as philosophically we are not convinced, we cannot practice the Abhidheya. And without practicing Abhidheya, we cannot get Prayojan. So that's why Siddhant na bhuli alas. Iya lagite sudrida manas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahaprabhu says, to understand Siddhant, don't be lazy. Why? Because you'll become sudrida manas. You'll become very determined to practice devotional service. So Sanatana Goswami is, the Acharya who will give the final conclusions of Bhakti. And these are Sanatana Shiksha, and that's why Bhakti Siddhant has to be studied through the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, which is Sanatana Shiksha. Prabhupada in his purport, see. Sri Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, the teacher of the science of devotional service, wrote several books, of which the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is very famous. Anyone who wants to know about the subject matter of devotees, devotional service, and Krishna must read this book. So many of the works of Sanatana Goswami are important, but Prabhupada is first giving emphasis to Brihad Bhagavatamrita. How many devotees have read Brihad Bhagavatamrita or heard the classes at least on Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Raise your hands. We would like to know. How many devotees have read or heard the classes? Oh, it's only one devotee. So I would request that now Gopiparanadam Prabhu has translated this book. It's in 2 volumes. And devotees, if they find it taxing to read it, they can hear some of the sannyasis who have given a series of lectures on Brihad Bhagavatamrita, chapter by chapter. I mean, this book, by reading especially Brihad Bhagavatamrita, will become deeply attached to Krishna. Sambandh means attachment, Sambandh Gyan. And by this deep attachment, how Krishna is affectionate to his devotees, a deep attachment of the soul for the Supreme Soul happens. And with this attachment, understanding this Bhakti Siddhant conclusion, then we practice the Abhidheya. If we don't uh, have a solid grounding of the Sambandha Gyan and we practice Abhidheya, then that Abhidheya will not give rise to Prayojan. So, just to give an example, uh, Ajamil chanted Namabhas. He called out his son Narayan, but actually Narayan is the Lord of Vaikunta. So he did not have that Sambandh Gyan. So although he called out his own son Narayan, but Narayan understood, oh, it's calling me. And he sent Vishnu Dutas. And with the Vishnu Dutas and Yamadutas conversation, he got the Sambandh Gyan, the glories of the holy name. He understood. And with that knowledge, he was given further time. For 6 years in Haridwar, he perfected his knowledge, practiced Abhidhe, and then ultimately got Prayojan. There is another example of in the Antilila in Chaitanya Charitamrita how Mahaprabhu used to go into internal ecstasy and somehow go missing from the Gambhira. So once he went missing and devotees were searching in the beach and they found a fisherman. Mahaprabhu had almost turned into like a tortoise, not like a tortoise, but he was floating in the ocean, and the fisherman thought it is a fish and he had caught him in the net. And just by coming in touch with Mahaprabhu's body, which was exhibiting Krishna Prem, he just started chanting Krishna and he got Krishna Prem directly. Without practicing Sambandha, without practicing Bhakti Abhidhe, he directly got Krishna Prem. And he was like, you know, chattering Hare Krishna, and he thought he's caught a ghost. And Sarup Damodar saw and he could understand. And he told, oh, there's a ghost, I've got a ghost. Sarup Damodar slapped him. Actually, I got Krishna Prem. So this fisherman got Prayojan, Krishna Prem, without practicing having Sambandh Gyan, Siddhanta, nor practicing Bhakti Abhidhe, directly got Krishna Prem. So these are rare cases, but devotees, as long as they don't situate themselves strongly in Sambandh, and with that Sambandh, don't practice the Abhidhe, they cannot get the Prayojan. It's as simple as it is. So Brahad Bhagavatamrita is a very, very important book. So devotees, Prabhupada is saying, must read this book. Must read it. Or at least begin by hearing a series of lectures on Brahad Bhagavatamrita. Now, other books Prabhupada mentions. Sanatana Goswami also wrote a special commentary on the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam known as the Dashama Tippani. It is also called as Brahad Vaishnava Toshini, which is so excellent that by reading it, one can understand very deeply the pastimes of Krishna in his exchanges of loving activities. So the Dashama Tippani is called as as I mentioned, Brahad Vaishnava Toshini. Sanatana Goswami exclusively wrote on the 10th canto. And some of the deep subtleties of pastimes of Krishna are mentioned in this work of Sanatana Goswami. But again, first we'll have to read Canto 1 to Canto 9, then 10th, 11th Canto, and like that. We should read many times Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, and then if we are fortunate, then we can also study this to absorb more deeply into the pastimes of Krishna. Another famous book by Sanatana Goswami is the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which states the rules and regulations for all divisions of Vaishnavas, namely Vaishnava householders, Grahastha Vaishnavas, Vaishnava Brahmacharis, Brahmachari Vaishnavas, Vaishnava Vanaprasthas, and Vaishnava Sannyasis. Now, I have read the statement. Can anyone point out, what does this mean, this statement? What does this mean? Vaishnava householders, Vaishnava Brahmacharis, Vaishnava Vanaprasthas, Vaishnava Sannyasis. What does this mean? Anyone? Think about it. Somebody should try. Yes, Partha. unmute you. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Bhaktat Pranams. Prabhuji, so Vaishnava householders have certain Vaishnavas Vanaprasthas, they have certain limitations. They
See,
they can do.
no, 1 minute. Let me again make it more clear. A Vaishnava means Vaishnava. Prabhupada is very clear. You cannot say American Vaishnava, African Vaishnava, Indian Vaishnava, designating on the body. Similarly, uh, I have never come across, Vaishnava. Oh, this is a Grahastha Vaishnava, he's a Vanaprastha Vaishnava, he's a Sannyas Vaishnava. So Vaishnavas are Vaishnavas. All are Vaishnavas, devotees of Vishnu. Especially Gaudiya Vaishnavas are devotees of Mahaprabhu. So why is Prabhupada, Sanatana, Prabhupada mentioning here, Vaishnava Grahasthas, Vaishnava Brahmacharis, Vaishnava Vanaprasthas and Vaishnava Sannyasis?
Prabhuji, because grihasthas they have to mingle with society,
No.
with
Not getting the point. Okay. Madan Deshpande has raised his hand. Let me ask him. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. I want
all those who are following the Vaishnavism, that is, all those who are in the Krishna conscious cult. So he has not made a differentiation between all, but those who all are following Krishna conscious cult, they all such types they can. It's not particularly for one person; it's for all.
Yes, typed in. Please do raise your hands. Sheetal Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, it could be regarding the services because every ashram has different services. So that book will have knowledge according to each person's service, though they are in any ashram, but the service related topics would be different.
Okay. No, I was thinking in a different angle, but devotees are not able to catch the point. So let me explain. Vaishnava means, Prabhupada is very clear, one who's transcendental, who's beyond the modes. He is a Vaishnava. That is the real meaning of Vaishnava. A Vaishnava means one who is situated on the transcendental platform. He's a Paramahamsa. He's completely beyond the three modes. And Vaishnava means a pure devotee of the Lord. So, how many now fit into this definition? Can we consider ourselves as Vaishnavas now? So, in the Varnashram, the Varna basically is based on the subtle body, on your impressions, which are there if you're in the mode of goodness, you're a brahmachari. If you're in the mode of passion, you're a kshatriya. Then there is Vaishya and Shudra. And then there are the ashramas based on that: brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So these divisions are based on their nature of the subtle body. It is based on the nature of the subtle body, based on goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now, as I mentioned, Vaishnavas are transcendental. So until we come to that platform, we are doing some core devotional activities like hearing and chanting. That is the activity of the soul. That is bhakti. And we have our nature. Conditioned nature is there. So that's why somebody is a brahmachari, somebody is a vanaprastha, somebody is a sannyasi, somebody is a grahastha. So although we don't identify with our varnashram designation, but still we have not transcended our conditioned state. We have not transcended our conditioned state, and we are not in that identity that I know my swarupa as, what is my swarupa? Jivera swarupa Krishna Nityadas. That only happens at the stage of bhava, when your swarupa is revealed. So until we come to that stage, we have our conditioned nature. So in the Varnashram Dharma, based on or Sabhav, there is a Swadharma which is given. That is Kshatriya. Kshatriya's dharma is there, fighting war. And there is also devotion there. But here we have been given directly the process of pure devotional service. But we have our nature, and we cannot deny that. So based on that nature, until we come to the transcendental platform, we have been also given these designations as Vaishnava householders, brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. And what are Vaishnava duties for all these ashramas? Vaishnava duties. In the Varnashram, there'll be duties according to your nature, Swabhav. But here it is directly related to devotion. So that's why it is a specific book written by for Vaishnavas. So there are the Smriti Shastras written by Yajnavalkya and all, but the Vaishnav Smriti Shastras are given by Sanatana Goswami. So Vaishnavas, Grahast Vaishnavas should invite other Vaishnavas and feed them prasad, and whatever they earn, how they should spend that money, or how they should propagate the Krishna conscious movement, like that. Many rules and regulations for all these divisions of Vaishnavas, Sanatana Goswami has given. And this is quite an elaborate study which has to be done. And devotees are studying this because we have our conditioned nature. Because Vaishnava means he is transcendental and 24 hours he is engaged in bhajan, Shravan Kirtan, that's it. Or like Haridas Thakur, 24 hours chanting. But most of the time we are conditioned and we have our conditioned nature and we are doing activities according to our conditioned nature. So how those conditioned activities have to be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness, in pure devotional service, those aspects have been dealt in Hari Bhakti Vilas. I don't know much about Hari Bhakti Vilas, frankly speaking, but just to give an idea, that this is what Hari Bhakti Vilas is about. So that's why Prabhupada is using this term, Vaishnava householders, Vaishnava brahmacharis, Vaishnava vanaprasthas, and Vaishnava sannyasis. So I hope this explanation makes some sense. There is one question. Yes, Prashant Shanbag Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, these Kanishta Adhikaris or Madhyama Adhikaris, they are also Vaishnavas, no? So they are not Paramahamsas.
Yes.
So we consider there as that also is applicable here as Vaishnava.
But what is your question? What is your question exactly? Kanishta Adhikaris and Madhyama Adhikaris are considered as Vaishnavas. So what's your question? Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu, actually, no, you said that this is that wording is for the Vaishnavas who are pure Vaishnavas, like Paramahamsas.
Yeah,
So
Vaishnava means he's transcendental completely.
Yeah. So this is this applicable to the Kanishta Adhikaris also?
Oh, okay, got it. The question. Is it applicable to Kanishta and Madhyama? No, it's not applicable to Kanishta and Madhyama. And Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama classifications are from different angles they have done in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Chaitanya Charitamrit, Bhagavatam. But those who have transcended the three modes, especially the Uttamadhikaris, they are actually in one sense Vaishnavas, pure Vaishnava. Vaishnava means pure Vaishnava. So in that sense, only the Uttamadhikaris from the Bhagavat perspective, I'm speaking, who are Mahabhagavats, who are transcended the three modes, who are the pure devotees of the Lord. Vaishnava means he is completely pure. That's how we have to understand. Till you are in the Kanishta, you have still not entered into the, you can say, the temple of practice of Ananya Bhakti. You are in the lower KG school. You have not still entered the school, first standard, second standard. Madhyamadhikari onwards, especially from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu perspective, Madhyamadhikari onwards, when one is very firm in his heart. He has got firm faith and he is very expert in bhajan and he understands the conclusion of Shastras. From there, his practice of pure devotion begins and it gets perfected at the Uttamadhikari stage, or his practice of bhakti begins from actually the stage of Nishta. Nishta in one is the Sthita Pragya. Sthita Pragya, and from there his devotion, bhajan begins continuous. And then he crosses through all these stages very quickly. And at the end of Raganuga Bhakti, he attains Bhava. So there onwards, he is considered as a Uttamadhikari and a pure devotee. Until then, there are these designations based on our subtle body. So that's why those terms have been used. I hope it is clear, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions? Okay. This is a little important point. Prabhupada is using every term, and we have to sometimes understand and reflect why Prabhupada is saying this. This book is especially written for Vaishnava householders. So Vaishnava Grahasthas, he says. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has described Sanatana Goswami in his prayer, Vilapa Kushamanjali, verse 6, where he has expressed his obligation to Sanatana Goswami in the following words. So this is a very important verse in glorification of Sanatana Goswami, which we will recite. Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam Prayatne Apayanan Mam Anamisam Andham Kripam Budir Yah Paradhukka Dhukki Sanatanastam Prabhum Ashrayami. I was unwilling to drink Apayan. Payan means, payan means paya means to drink. Apayan means I was unwilling to drink. Mam. Anabisum andam. Because I did not have that desire to drink the nectar of devotional service possessed of renunciation. Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam Prayatne. But Sanatana Goswami, Sanatanastam, out of his causeless mercy, Kripam Buddhir made me drink it, even though I was otherwise unable to do so. Therefore, he is the ocean of mercy, Kripam Buddhi. Once again, it is repeated. He is very compassionate to the fallen, Paradukha Dukhi, souls like me, and thus it is my duty to offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Tam Prabhum Ashrayami. So by offering such a prayer to Sanatana Goswami and studying Sanatana Shiksha, we will be, we don't want to drink the nectar of devotional service, especially in the form of, Vairagya. Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam, we don't want, but if we study Sanatana Shiksha, then he will also bestow mercy upon us. Why? Because he is very, very merciful. Paradukha Dukhi. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yogam. Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Tachar is glorifying two verses which are very famous, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yogam. We have come to give that Vairagya Vidya and teach your own devotional service. So until our renunciation is complete and we have no material rasa, then we cannot taste spiritual rasa. So by studying Sanatana Shiksha, Sanatana Goswami is empowering us by which we can develop that Vairagya Vidya. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also in the last section of Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically mentions the names of Rupa, Sanatana Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami and offers his respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of these three spiritual masters as well as Raghunath Das Goswami. So at the end of every chapter, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Rupa Raghunatha Pada Ashray Yahar. So there, Rupa Raghunath means it includes all the six Goswamis. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami also accepted Sanatana Goswami as the teacher of the science of devotional service. So Raghunath Das Goswami also took shelter of Sanatana Goswami, who taught him the science of devotional service. So how much we should take shelter? Srila Rupa Goswami is described as the Bhakti Rasacharya, or one who knows the essence of devotional service. He's called as the Rasikacharya. His famous book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is the science of devotional service. And by reading this book, one can understand the meaning of devotional service. So, Rup Goswami is our Abhidheya Acharya, and we should study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Another of his famous books is Ujjwal Neelmani. So, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu discusses about the 5 rasas. First, the overview of Bhakti is given in one wave, Eastern wave. The Southern wave discusses the overview of rasas, the 5 rasas, Shant, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. In the Western wave, there are the 5 Mukhya rasas. Overview of rasa, the ingredients of rasa are there in the Southern division. There is Stahi Bhav, Vibhav, Anubhav, Satviki Bhav, and Sanchari Bhavs. In the Western division, that is the third wave, third section, and there is the 5 Mukhya rasas discussed. And in the fourth wave, that is the northern wave, the Gaun rasas, 7, the Vibhatsya Rasya, Hasya Rasa, and all. So like that is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So all the 5 rasas have been discussed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but the highest rasa is the Madhuri Ras. So specifically the Madhuri Ras, Rup Goswami wrote the Ujjwala Neelmani. And just like when you dive deep into the ocean, you find gems and pearls. Similarly, when you dive deep into the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu subject, deep down, you will find Neelmani, the highest rasa in the form of Madhuri Ras. So the Madhuri Ras pastimes and Madhuri Ras Tattva is discussed in Ujjwal Neelmani. Again, devotees who are at the neophyte platform or the intermediate platform also should not study this book at all until one is a Mahabhagavat. For us, we should study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu for many, many, many years. In this book, he has elaborately explains the loving affairs and the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna and Radharani. This is the reason why we should not study until we are completely free from lust and very pure at heart, at least at the stage of bhava, because we will, will not be able to understand the intimate loving affairs of Radha and Krishna, and we might misunderstand them. So only very pure devotees can touch this book. Jaya Jaya Nityanand Charana Ravinda, Yaha hai te paino Sri Radha Govinda. All glory to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Still, Kaviraj Goswami is glorifying Nityananda in every verse. By whose mercy I have attained Sri Radha Govinda. By his mercy I have attained Radha Govinda. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who is famous for his poetic composition known as Pratna, has lamented in one of his prayers, when will Lord Nityananda be merciful upon me so that I will forget all material as Arakaba Nitai Chander Karuna Hoibe Samsara Vasana Tucha Kabe Hobe. Srila Narottam Das Thakur confirms that unless one is freed from material desires to satisfy the needs of the body and senses, one cannot understand the transcendental abode of Lord Krishna. So that means practically when all the desires are not there in the heart, Anya Bilashita Shunyam, no other desire except the desire to serve the Lord, or the Lakshana of Sita Pragya. Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmaneva Atmana Tushta Sita Pragya Satuchata. So only at this platform then we can understand Vrindavan. He also confirms that one cannot understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna without going to the direction of the 6 Gopaswamis. Rupa Raghunatha Kabe Hobe Akuti Kabe Hame Bujhabo Shri Yugala Priti. That is there in that bhajan. In another verse, Narottam Das Thakur has stated that without the causeless mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, one cannot enter into the affairs of Radha and Krishna. So this is regarding Chaitanya Charitamrita glorification of Kaviraj, about Sanatana Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami also glorifying in one beautiful verse about Sanatana Goswami. Now, there are some more verses which we will discuss. This comes in the Adi Leela first chapter. Jayatam surato pangu mama mandir matirgati mat sarvasya padambojo Radha Madan Mohano. Glory to the all merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. Radha Madan Mohano. Dvivachan it is. Jayatam. I am lame and ill advised. Surato Pangu. I am Pangu. Yet they are my directors. Mat Sarvasya Padambojo. And their lotus feet are everything to me. Mama Manda Matirgati. Mat Sarvasya Padambojo. So this verse and the subsequent two verses are in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita given because the Sambandh deities are Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan is one who attracts us towards him because we are attracted to Maya. And by having darshan of Madan Mohan, our heart is attracted to Krishna and the Sambandh is established. And then the Abhiday deity is Radha Govind. Divya Vrindavan Kalpatrumat, Srimat Ratna, Gar Simhasanasto, Srimat Radha Srila Govindevo, Preshtalebi, Savios Marami. That is the next verse after the 16. And our Abhidaya Acharya is Rupa Goswami, and his worshipable deities are Radha Govindev, who give knowledge on how to perform devotional service. He's our Abhidaya Acharya. And the Gopinath deities are which perform the pastimes. Krishna performing the pastimes with the gopis and ultimately relishing loving exchanges. That is the Gopinath deity, and our Prayojan Acharya is Raghunath Das Goswami. So like that, Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojan, these three deities are most important for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So here in this verse, Radha Madan Mohan was in one sense discovered by Sanatana Goswami. So we will hear that pastime more in detail in our next session. So it's very important that Madan Mohan is one with whom we establish Sambandh. Mohan means he attracts. Madan means Cupid. He attracts us. This is transcendental Cupid. Otherwise, the Cupid in this material world is attracting us towards Maya. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 24, there are verses by Kavi Karnapur. Kavi Karnapur is a son of Shivanand Sen, who is considered as the best of the poets in the Gaudiya Vaishnav line. So he has written what is called as the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak. So these three verses are quoted by Prabhupada, and we will see how he glorifies Sanatana Goswami. Gaudendrasya sabha vibhushan manistaktva yardham shriyam rupasyagraja esha eva tarunim vairagya lakshmim dadhe antar bhakti rasena purna hridayo bhaya vaduta-kriti saivale pihitam mahasara iva pratispradas Priti Pradastam Vidham. This is in a particular meter which even I don't know, but the translation is very interesting. Srila Sanatana Goswami, the elder brother of Rupa Goswami, Rupasya Agraja, was a most important minister in the government of Hussain Shah, the ruler of Bengal. Gauda Indrasya. Gaud means the Gaud Desh, Indra means he was a king. And he was considered a most brilliant gem in that assembly. Vibhushan Mani Sabha. In that Sabha, he was a gem. He possessed all the opulences of a royal position, but he gave up everything. Tektva ya riddham shriyam. Riddhi and Siddhi, Shriya he had, but he gave up. Just to accept the youthful goddess of renunciation. Esha eva tarunim vairagya lakshmim dadya. He accepted the youthful goddess of Lakshmi of Vairagya. Although he externally appeared to be a mendicant who had renounced everything, Bhaya Avadut Akriti. Externally, he was looking like a Avadut. Was filled with the pleasure of devotional service within his heart. Antar Bhakti Rasena Purna Hridayo. Thus, he can be compared to a deep lake covered with moss. So, there is a metaphor given. Just like a deep lake is covered with moss, Saivali Pihitam Mahasaraiva. He was object of pleasure for all the devotees who knew the science of devotionals. Preeti Pradastam Vidam. So, although the deep lake is covered with moss, we cannot understand externally. Oh, what is this? There is nothing here. It's externally, Sanatana Goswami might look like a avaduta, practically not having anything, but internally he was having the highest wealth of jewel of Krishna praying for Radha and Krishna. So this is what he possessed. Antar bhakti rasena puna hridayo. So the next verse, Kavi Karmpur further glorifies. Tam sanatanam upagatam akshno drishtamatram atimatra dayadraha alilinga parigayata dorbhyam suanukampam ata champaka gauraha. As soon as Sanatana Goswami arrived in front of Lord Chaitanya, tam sanatanam upagatam. We know that Sanatana Goswami, after he escaped from the jail, he just went to meet Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu had already gone to Vrindavan and is coming back, and they both met in Banaras. So we'll be studying the verse to verse. It will come up. So as soon as Sanatan came in front of the Lord, what happened? The Lord, seeing him, became merciful to him. Akshnu, seeing, Drishti Matram, just seeing him, Ati Martya Dayadra. Ati means he became very compassionate. The Lord, who has the complexion of a golden champak flower, Ata Champaka Gaur. The Lord is called as Champaka Gaur. You can see here, it is effulgent. Opened his arms and embraced him while expressing great affection. Ali Linga Parigayata Dorbhyam. Dorbhyam means both his hands. Su Anukampam, with lot of affection, Anukampa. And he embraced him. So this is a very beautiful picture where Mahaprabhu is embracing Sanatana Goswami. So this is the mercy the Lord showed on Sanatan, that he embraced him with great affection. He was very merciful. And this is also one more verse quoted by Kavi Karmpur. Kalena Vrindavana Keli Varta Lupte Titam Khyapaitum Vishishya Kripamritena Abhishishesha Deva Tatraiva Rupam Cha Sanatanam Cha. In the course of time, Kalena, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan were almost lost. Vrindavana Keli Varta Lupteti. Keli Varta means the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Varta means the exchanges of talks. To enunciate explicitly those transcendental pastimes, Tam Khyapitum Vishishya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Deva empowered Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Tatraiva Rupam Cha Sanatanam Cha. With the nectar of his mercy to carry out this work in Vrindavan. Krita Amrita Tena Abhishishej. He gave the Abhishishej, the nectar of mercy, to both Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So it's interesting that Rupa Goswami was taught Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Sanatana Shiksha, you will come across Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu teachings. So it's not that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu teachings were only given to Rupa Goswami, it was even equally given to Sanatana Goswami. So especially in the Madhya Leela chapter 22, we will be studying again in one sense Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, more in detail, Mahaprabhu's teachings to Sanatana Goswami. Now this is the last part about Sanatana Shiksha. For 2 months, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojan Tattva, knowledge of the soul, nature and God. I mentioned Jiva Tattva, Jagadish and Jagadishwar. Knowledge of the process and knowledge of the goal to Sanatana Goswami. Abhidaya and Prayojan. Chandrasekharacharya, Tapan Mishra and the Brahmanas of Varanasi also heard the discussion. So while Mahaprabhu was teaching this, 2 intimate associates of Mahaprabhu who were residing in Banaras on Mahaprabhu's order, also they heard this discussion, and the Brahmanas of Varanasi. Mahaprabhu explained the Swarup Lakshan and the Tatast Lakshan of Bhakti. The Anya Vilashita Shunyam verse, we will again take up what is Swarup Lakshan, what is Tatastha Lakshan. So again, Mahaprabhu taught this to Sanatana Goswami. He also explained Jiva Tattva, Maya Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, and Paramatma Tattva. As I mentioned, Bhakti Siddhanta Tattva has to be studied. So all these tattvas are there in the Sanatana Shiksha. He spoke about Krishna Swarup, the sweetness of Krishna's conjugal love, opulence, and Bhakti Ras. All these truths were explained to Sanatana Goswami by Mahaprabhu himself out of his causeless mercy. The teachings of Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami are described by Kaviraj Goswami, sorry, it should have been here, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapters 19 to 24. It is not chapter 19, it is chapter 20 to 24. A thorough reading of these chapters, known as Sanatana Shiksha, along with the commentaries of the previous acharyas, is of great benefit to the sadhaka. So by Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, who has given the essence of commentaries of both Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we get greatly benefited by this. What happens? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, what is the purpose of studying Sanatana Shiksha? So in his book or in his song, Vaishnav Ke, oh, what kind of a Vaishnav we are? So there is verse 9 where he has referred to Sanatana Shiksha. Taye dushtaman nirjana bhajan pracharicho chale kuyogi vaibhav prabhu sanatana paramayatane shiksha dilo yaha chinto se sabe. Truly, O wicked mind, taye dushtaman. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is preaching to his mind. O wicked mind, the glories of so-called solitary worship, nirjan bhajan, are propagated only by false yogis, kuyogi vaibhav, using unscrupulous means to deceive others. Pracharicho chale. Chal means there is chal, there is deception. Just it is deception by these kuyogis, about nirjan bhajan. To save yourself from these pitfalls, please contemplate the instructions. Siksha dilo yata chinto esabe. You do chintan on the shiksha. Which shiksha? That the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kindly gave us while addressing Srila Sanatana Goswami. Prabhu means Mahaprabhu, Sanatane. He gave what he gave to Sanatana. And how one should deeply contemplate? With the utmost care. Paramayatane. So, if we study Sanatana Shiksha, here Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, we will become completely clear of Bhakti Siddhanta and will not get cheated of all these false philosophies, especially, the deviant philosophies. There were 13 Bhaktivinoda Thakur had identified, Saki Beki, the Sahajiyas, all these false conceptions, we will never fall trap to it and come to an understanding, oh, this is true bhakti. No. The true bhakti siddhanta can be known when we, with utmost care, study Sanatana Shiksha. This is the glory of Sanatana Shiksha. By hearing Mahaprabhu's instruction to Sanatana Goswami, one becomes fully knowledgeable of Krishna's various expansions in the process of Vaidhi Bhakti and Radhana Sadhana Bhakti. So this is the glory. We become fully knowledgeable of Krishna's expansions. Krishna has various types of expansions, so we'll understand all that. This is the entire many verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it will come. We'll have to study that. And we'll also know what is Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. He will understand what is Krishna Prem, Bhakti Ras, and Bhakti Siddhant. Everyone can understand these truths by studying Lord's instruction to Sanatana Goswami, called as Sanatana Shiksha. So this is the glory of studying Sanatana Shiksha. So I will not be going into the exhaustive life of pastimes of Sanatana Goswami, his life history, but a few important aspects I will discuss tomorrow's class. And then we will start with Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 20, verse by verse discussion. in the next week onwards. So any questions, any clarifications? We have 10 more minutes before we wind up. We started at 7:20, so it is 8:20 now, 1 hour. So any questions anyone has? About the points what we discussed about Sanatana Shiksha. So, okay then. So we will conclude today's discussion on this first topic of the glories in glorification of Sanatana Goswami Pad. So tomorrow's class, some of the pastimes of the life of Sanatana Goswami we will discuss. And many of the life about Sanatana Goswami will come in the Chaitanya Charitamrita chapter 20. So we will not discuss them separately. As we are discussing the verses, we will discuss there. Well, there are some questions, so let us take up Shri Aradhya. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, will we get the recording?
Yes, we will get it. We will send you the link in the group.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Also send the slides as and when they are ready, and you can refer to the slides also.
Yes.
It
Okay,
should be
thank you.
available on the group.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other clarifications? Yes, Partha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, you had said that Sanatana Goswami had written Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is rules and regulations for Vaishnava Brahmacharis, Vaishnava householders, Vaishnava Vanaprasthas, and Vaishnava Sannyasis. Now, for example, Vaishnava Brahmacharis. Among Vaishnava Brahmacharis, there can be Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari also. No, in a Vaishnava.
You cannot juxtapose. Juxtapose means mix. One concept which is discussed, one terminology is used in a particular discussion, and another terminology. If you mix, then it's not the right way to understand things. So, in brahmacharis, there is Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, you're saying something like that?
Yeah. So, but you also told that this is not meant when another devotee asked. He said, "Is it for Kanishta, Madhyama, or Uttama?" Then you said, "No, it is not meant for Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama." So,
What is not meant? What is not meant?
Hari Bhakti Vilas is not meant for.
I did not say like that. Hari Bhakti Vilas is specially meant for Kanishtas and Madhyamas. As long as you are not on the transcendental platform, you're Paramhamsa, then you're a Vaishnava, you're a pure devotee of the Lord. So, now the rules and regulations don't apply. You're a Paramhamsa. You have transcended the Varna and the Ashrams because you're on the pure spiritual platform. Until then, all these rules and regulations are important for Vaishnavas who have taken up to the practice of, the bhakti coming in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, Mahaprabhu's line. We don't follow the Dharma Shastras where, there is Dharma Shastras where Brahmana's duties are given based on his nature. What is his Swadharma? The Kshatriya duties in the Kautilya Artha Shastra they are given. Or the Dhanur Veda. The Artha Shastra is, sorry, for the Vaishyas. So like that, we don't follow these other Dharma Shastras based on our conditioned nature, different duties given for different Varnas. Because we understand that the highest is pure devotion to Lord Krishna. But we are not at the pure devotional platform. We have our conditioned nature. So how, with this conditioned nature, while practicing bhakti, how to, be situated both based on our conditioned nature, so that we can be properly situated situated so that ultimately that will help us to ultimately come to our constitutional nature, where we transcend our conditioned nature. So those rules and regulations uh, uh, is what Hari Bhakti Vilas discusses. Again, I've not read Hari Bhakti Vilas. I've not gone through uh, even the introduction of it, but this is my little understanding about that book, because I've read some points here and there, and that's what philosophically it means. That's the point I wanted to make. Is it clear or no?
Thank you. Yes, it is clear.
Clear. Just again to give an example, like we are all trying to become Vaishnavas. We have, coming to the temple, chanting rounds, hearing Bhagavatam, and now we are trying to become Vaishnavas, but we have our conditioned nature. Somebody has a business inclination and he's doing business from morning 10 to 6. So that's based on his conditioned nature. It's not pure devotional activity. Pure devotional activity means 24 hours you chant bhajan, 24 hours you do Shravan Kirtan. And when you can do this, when you're completely on the transcendental platform. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasya dridavata namasyantu tu mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasata. Nitya yukta, satatam. Because he's under the Daivim Prakriti Mashita. He's completely under the internal potency. So we are not at that platform, and the material energy is acting on us, and material conditionings are there. So how these Vaishnavas who are also practicing certain angas of bhakti at particular and during the time of the day, and they have their conditioned nature, and based on the conditioned nature they are doing certain activities, how these Vaishnavas can do those activities in a favorable way so that ultimately they can come to the point of only doing constitutional activities. That's in essence what rules and regulations Sanatana Goswami is narrating in Hari Bhakti Vilas. Again, I don't know much about this subject, but devotees also should not read it until you have studied it under some expert or some expert devotees who have already studied this and who can give us the essence. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur has dealt about it. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how the Grahastha Vaishnavas, what were their duties. So everything, for the Vaishnavas, Grahasthas, and for the Sannyasis, what are their duties, everything he has brought out in his works, he has brought out. And that is quite simple to understand also. That points he discusses in his Bhakti Aloka also. Sattva Vritti, in that he discusses quite in detail. I think I don't recollect, some 90 points for Grahasthas and some 150 points for Sannyasis, and some which are common for both Sannyasis and Grahasthas. So in general, he discusses about this. That in essence, you can understand that is again, what are the duties for Grahasthas, Sannyasis, Vaishnavas, for Vaishnavas, what are the duties? That way he explains it. I hope it is clear, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other questions, clarification? Okay, so we will stop today and then we will start tomorrow some more pastimes of Sanatana Goswami and start the verse by verse discussion on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shri Sanatana Goswami Pad ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.